We just wait for. So then we just wait for her to come. Then we start. Well, people, thank you all for coming on a pleasant Saturday, whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening for you. So today we have a very interesting session with the theme of bouncing up. Bouncing up always comes with first, you go down somewhere, and then there is an immense pressure or a need for you to rise up like a phoenix and soar above. And this trajectory of going down and then rising up is what is important and what we undergo throughout our lives. With that theme in mind, today we will have our Toastmaster of the day, Abhijit Joshi, who will be conducting the session for you.
Thank you so much, Shardul. Our today's theme, bouncing up, reminds me of the speech from 2018, Ramona Smith. She was the winner of the World Championship. In her speech, she said, life is like a boxing matchup. It's going to knock you down. It reminds me of March 6th, 2010. I was in New Zealand for my first ever Ironman. I had a great start to the swim. I was excited. 1 hour, 12 minutes. I was running towards my bike, trying to change. I was in the transition area. It was nice to see my parents. I waved at them. And soon after, I was on my bike. After 35 kilometers, boom! My tire exploded. I had worked on Ironman for 4 years, at least training 3 hours every day. 2010, April 26th, 9:30 a.m. As I went to office, I went to the cafeteria, grabbed my coffee, and I was just coming to my desk and I saw the VP coming towards me. I knew it was my day. I was totally frozen. That was the day I got laid off. July 12th, 2016. Life had another plan. My 7-year-old relationship ended. Boom. The third blow was tough. As we'll go ahead, I'll show you how things changed or what makes the difference in our life. The one word that makes the difference is resilience, resilience, resilience. It's the ability to bounce back. Today we have an exciting session. We have an icebreaker and we have a speech from Ramesh. Before we get started, let me call upon Shardul to share the word of the day. Shardul, what is the word of the day?
It's not a Zoom meeting unless you have to click on mute twice. Uh, the word of the day today is nadir. Given the fact that we want to bounce up, the situation, as I said, only arises when you are at a very low point in your life. And that low point, be it professionally, socially, emotionally, is called another. So that's the worst phase in your life, and it can't get any worse. That's the meaning of the word. An example could be asking a very impertinent question to a host was the nadir of my career, as in for a TV presenter. So asking something very bad. The question that he asked was the worst question he could ever think of. So something like that. Or the story that Abhijit was telling right now, the three blows that he received. With them, he was at the lowest phase in his life. So nadir in his life. That's the word of the day. Hope you use it with a theme. Back to you, Abhi.
Thank you so much, Shardul. We define different points in our life, and today we'll learn from our speakers. Our first speaker is going to be Stephen. His evaluator is Frederica. Frederica, can you share the purpose of Stephen's speech?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening again to everyone. Today, Stephen is going to bless us with his first speech at Universal Entrepreneurs Toastmasters, and this is taken from Innovative Planning. His speech will be 5 to 7 minutes. It's taken from Level 3, Connect with Storytelling. The purpose of the project is for the member to practice using a story with a speech or giving a speech that is a story. So we're going to look forward to hear what Stephen have to tell us today. Over to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Frederica. Today is Stephen's first speech. Stephen Bowie. Doctors are the worst patients. Doctors are the worst patients. Stephen Bowie.
Thank you, Toastmaster of the Day, Abhijit. It's my honor to be here speaking with you all. First, I'd like to throw out some names because we are Toastmaster from all around different corners around the world. And to you, what do you think about these things that has in common? Dubai, Bangkok, Seoul, Tokyo, Stockholm, Berlin, Helsinki. To me, those are destinations of major cities around the world. And being an entrepreneur, one of the things that we do a lot is travel, for me specifically. And today I'm going to share with you my story of none of this would ever happen. I would not even be an entrepreneur if it wasn't for being the worst patient. Hence the topic, doctors are the worst patients. As Abhijit has mentioned, the bounce, right? When you hit the lowest point, when you hit the nadir in your profession, you can bounce up like a rubber band. The further back you pull, the far forward you will spring forward. And that was my journey. The proverb you have heard before, doctors make the worst patient. Well, first of all, what is the worst patient? Just think of your mind, what makes the worst patient? Or have you been the worst patient? I'll give you some definition of being a worst patient. The worst patient to me, I treat a lot of patients. And in my career, thousands of patients. And when I think of the worst patient, two things I think of. Number one are the patient that they think they know better. They know better than the doctor even. The second thing is the patient that don't follow instructions. And that's a perfect setup for failure and not getting better. To us, that is, for me, that is the setup for the worst patient. And doctors, I think, has a perfect setup to be the worst patient. So the proverb, doctors make the worst patient, in my case, is true. First person perspective, I'll tell you my story and why I'm here today. A number of years back, I take up running and I got injured because I was not trained properly. I just thinking of running is pick up your feet and walk. And the faster you walk, you get to a phase where you're actually running, and that's it. Very simple. Not so. I did not do it properly. I trained too quick. It's called too many two syndrome. Too fast, too long, too intense. And I got injured. And as a doctor, the first thing is, I think I know better. So I'm going to do the things that I'm supposed to do to take care of it. And I didn't go to another doctor. And that's the mistake number one. Number two, I know what to do. It's very easy to tell the patient, you got to do this to get better. But when it comes to me, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do either. But here's the discovery. As I learned more and more in medical school, I learned that thick cushion supportive shoes are going to help our feet. This is what I learned. And it makes sense to me. So that I practice that way. And that's how I get injured myself. And supposed to do the stretching exercises, all the exercise I'm supposed to do. I think I can make shortcuts. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. But that's a perfect setup. And I was the worst patient until I decided to go to another doctor. And they tell me what I have to do. And I kind of listened a little bit, but wasn't all in. Until I met a gentleman that is not even a doctor. And later on, I found out he was a founder of a shoe company that at that point in my life, I wasn't getting better. And I started doing research. And what I learned in school, in medical school, was in conflict with what I learned right now. And that's another speech in itself, in that belief. And I will save that for another time. But what I learned is what I had learned in medical school was incorrect. And for me to get better is, number one, I have to get out of my way because I don't know better. Even as a doctor, even medical school had taught us wrong in the past. And many disease conditions we learned at the beginning, now is not to be true. Like, for example, I'll give you an example of stretching. In the old days, doctors used to make sure you stretch and hold that stretch before you exercise. Well, now it's been proven that if you do static stretch before you do an exercise, you're more likely to get injured, you decrease your performance. So that was my journey of being an entrepreneur, learning new things. And that makes me a better patient. And the second thing was, until I decided to be all in, I'm going to actually do the exercises. That's the turning point for my nadir, because I was at the lowest point. I wasn't getting better. It looks bad. I'm a doctor that's taking care of patients, and I have an injury that I can't even take care of myself. What kind of career do I have? That's when I went all in. I learned how to take care of myself, and I actually follow instructions. That was the change that I needed to change my life around. And I decided to be an entrepreneur because of these false beliefs, even as doctors. Many doctors out there still have the wrong belief, even on diseases management. Simple example with that would be diabetes, high blood pressure. We know as doctors, there's solution, there's pills for it. But is the pill really the answer for these lifestyle diseases? So we'll save that for another talk. But we'll get to the bottom of my journey here, is that once I found the solution for myself and I went all in, I found that I am the best person to help me get better. The doctor, their role is the guide to help you to better health, but they won't do the work for you. In conclusion, what I want to do, and I'm not looking at the timer, what I want you to take away from this is be open to learn. You know, if you think you know better, you're going to the doctor and you're not following the instructions, number two, you're not going to get better. And even in your career, in your personal life, and that was a transformation that for me to become an entrepreneur, because I go follow my dream to work on a device that help people with foot pain, because there isn't actual product like that to help with my patients. And I put in the work, but now I'm making it easy for people to do the work. But at the end of the day, you have to put out the sweat. George Patton said, "A pint of sweat saves a gallon of blood." That is so true for me. If I don't do the work, I don't follow through, I will be injured today. And I would not be following my entrepreneurship journey and meet you all here. Thank you. Toastmaster, back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Stephen. Stephen, your speech reminds me of my running days, and same thing was happening. After I ran like 5 kilometers, my knee would start paining. I didn't know what to do until later in my life, I met a coach who helped me understand that it's important to do a warm up and then do stretches, do static stretches. So thank you for reminding me again of that, Stephen. Everyone, please take a minute to give feedback to Stephen. Timer, please give me a minute. Thank you, Shardul. Before we move on to the next speaker, I want to take you back to March 6th. As I told you, I was in New Zealand going through my biking. I was just 35 kilometers in. It was total 180 kilometers bike race. And boom! I didn't know what happened. I got down from my bike and checked. I was amazed that my tire had exploded. My tire had exploded. I had a spare tube, but no tire. As I stood there, a lot of people were starting passing me. And in that moment, I had to make a split decision. Do I complain about what is happening? Or do I save my energy? A lot of thoughts were happening. Things were happening at a very fast rate. One thing I did, put my bike down and started cheering for the people who were passing me. I stayed there for 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Time was going. And at that moment, I just left it to the universe. Let's see what happens. Let's move on to our next speaker. Our next speaker is Ramesh. His evaluator is Shardul. Shardul, can you share the purpose of Ramesh's speech?
Yeah, now it's audible. Ramesh is giving a speech on. My bad. Sorry. Ramesh is giving a speech from his presentation mastery pathway. The project is from level 1, that is evaluation and feedback. So ideally in this project, you have to give 2 speeches. The first one, which is this current one, in which he will get the feedback, and in which he gives his speech, gets an evaluation and feedback. And in the second speech, this feedback is incorporated into a same or different speech. So the idea is just to identify the weak points of his communication style and then improve upon them. The speech duration is, as earlier mentioned from Abhijit, was 8 to 10 minutes. The signals that will be provided will be at 6, it will be green, at 8, it will be yellow, and at At 7 it will be yellow, and at 8 it will be red.
No,
No,
sorry.
no, no. 8 to 10 minutes. So 8 green,
Oh, my bad.
9
Sorry.
yellow,
So
10 red.
my bad. 8 is green, 9 is yellow, 10 is red. Duly noted. And the points of evaluation perspective, Ramesh is already a advanced speaker, so mostly apart from the basic criteria, the theme, the way it's presented will also be taken into account for his evaluation. Back to you,
Thank,
Abhi.
thank you, Shardul. Ramesh Devangan, getting out of your comfort zone. Getting out of your comfort zone, Ramesh Devangan.
Picture this. I came to US in 1996, July. It was August of the same year. And I see an advertisement on a magazine about a YMCA summer camp. I had two small kids at that time, 6 and 2. We were very new to the country. We had not many friends. We were completely unfamiliar with the area. We didn't know the culture a lot. And I asked around, hey, this sounds interesting. This is summer camp. Isn't it something that we will enjoy? So I asked some of my friends, and they said, what are you talking about? Are you kidding me? What YMCA summer camp? That's not something that we go to. And we don't know what will be there. But I said, you know what? Let's try. Let's see if we can enjoy that and we can learn something from it. So there we go. We pack our bags and we start looking at where is this summer camp. It was at a place called Loma Mar in deep redwood forest in California. At that time, I had no idea where Loma Mar was or what Loma Mar is. And that time was not the time of GPS and easy to locate cities and towns. So we opened the paper map and we started looking where Loma Mar was. And we said, okay, this is the direction we need to go. And we drive there. Of course, we miss it, right? Because it's deep inside forest. It's a small, tiny town. And we go all the way further up. And then we come back for the summer camp. Ultimately, we reached after many hours. It was already dark by the time we reached. Actually, we were supposed to reach in the afternoon. But there we go to the office and say, okay, we have come here for the summer camp. And they said, great, super. So where is your blankets and all these things? I hope you brought them. And I said, what blankets? So we didn't know that we were supposed to bring blankets. I said, what? Oh, okay. Oh, wow. These guys haven't brought. Oh, then they corral few people and say, hey, guys, these guys need some blanket. Does anyone have spare? He said, yeah, I have one spare. Somebody said, I have two spare. And then we gathered the blankets and we started our stay over there, which was pretty cold in the night. And coming from India at that time, cold was not something that we could anticipate and also face as much. But night was extremely cold there. And then we stayed. And then next day we say, oh, so what about the bath? Is there a bath? We say, yeah, there is a public bathroom. We all use it. This is summer camp after all. And that was a very scary experience. It's a public bathroom, everybody having bath together. What is going on here? Any case, we had to, we did it, and we really went on with our summer activities. And there was, and then there was about food, right? They said, okay, my wife was vegetarian. And they said, okay, is there a vegetarian food here? And they said, vegetarian food, that's not something that we have thought about. It's all non-veg. And so ultimately we said, oh, we need that. Then they found one place 1 mile from there which was serving vegetarian food. And somebody volunteered to go there and get food for us. Can you believe it? It was a great set of people. And then my son was 2 years old and he always drank milk, warm milk. So, and then I asked, okay, so where is there a microwave or something that we could heat milk? Because my son only takes warm milk. And then everyone was surprised. He said, "What, warm milk? We don't have microwave in this such a remote location." And he said, "Okay, again, they found some place 1 mile from there. Somebody had microwave and somebody volunteered to go get the milk warmed up." We had a lot of such struggles, but we thoroughly enjoyed the summer camp. My kids had a blast there. They really had participated in a lot of arts and craft activity. There was a nice river walk over there. And in fact, we had a midnight hike, which was a great experience to have. Midnight hike. Oh my God, I've never done that before. Anyway, so the whole thing was that we learned a lot of things there. We learned about Christian culture. I didn't even know what YMCA was, to tell you frankly. I didn't know what YMCA was. So there we came to know YMCA has something to do with Christianity. Okay, great. Let's learn about it. So let's talk about what is this. And we learned a lot of things. In fact, we had learned some kind of a song, a theme song of YMCA as well. So we were singing in the night, like jumping and all that thing. So that was fun. Right? And the overall, we really had a great time. I learned a lot of new things over there. And I come back and I explain all of this to my friends, and they're like, they had wide eyes. What? Where did you go and what did you learn? The bottom line is, I got out of comfort zone. Getting out of comfort zone is not something very, very natural for a lot of us. But when you do that, not only you learn a lot, you get ahead in your life. It starts with the mindset. Unless you really prepare yourself internally, you're open yourself up, willing to take risks. So what if something goes wrong? It's okay. People are all there to take care of you. You really can't get it out of comfort zone. Stretching yourself requires some change. So let's watch a small video by Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is a very well-known Hollywood actor and a motivational speaker. And let me share a small video regarding getting out of comfort zone. I hope I can share screen.
Yes, do optimize for video.
I share optimize for video. Got it. Okay.
And share sound.
Show you this. We all live inside a bubble, right? This is our world. We go to church here, we work over here.
Is the volume okay?
Yes, volume is okay.
We go get our coffee over here. We go to this park over here. We usually go over here to, hang out with friends. This is our favorite club. This is our world. This is our favorite spot on the beach. We all live in this bubble. What you got to do to get the life that God wants you to have, you got to put more air in your bubble. You got to blow your bubble up. Expand yourself. Take yourself out your comfort zone. Do not live in your bubble. Put some more air in your bubble. If you stay in your comfort zone, that's where you will fail. You will fail in your comfort zone. Success is not a comfortable procedure. It is a very uncomfortable thing to attempt. So you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable if you ever want to be successful. Start putting some pressure on. Put some pressure on yourself. Get out here and get about it. Look, I'd love to sugarcoat this thing for you. I'd love to tell you, look, you can go out here and get rich, do a couple of things. That ain't happening. You got to get real doggish. You got to get downright funky if you want to make it. Now, like I was telling you before, if you want to be ordinary, you ain't even got to listen to me. Just go on about your business. If you think ordinary is cool, ain't no problem. It's some really, really wonderful ordinary people. But if you are sitting in this room and you have extraordinary aspirations, then you're going to have to do extra. You put extra on top of ordinary, and you come up with extraordinary. It's no other way. I'm sorry, but here's the fact. All of you have extraordinary capabilities. All of you. You have to decide if you're willing to do the things to put you in that category. Rich people don't sleep 8 hours a day. That's a third of your life. It ain't but 24 hours in a day. You cannot be sleep 8 hours a day. You can't live in LA and wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's 11 o'clock on the East Coast. The stock market been open 2 hours. They already making decisions about your life and your ass was asleep. The Bible says, he who loves to sleep and the folding of hands, poverty will set upon you like a thief in the night. He who loves to sleep and the folding of hands, poverty will set upon you like a thief in the night. I'm gonna ask you one question, I'm gonna go. How many of you in here know somebody who loves to sleep? Who knows somebody that loves to sleep? Let me ask you something. Ain't they Poe?
So I hope that gave you a little idea. So let me wrap up by saying growth stops when you lose the stretch. Review the areas in your life that you may have lost stretch. Get out of comfort zone. Look at things that are hindering your coming out of comfort zone. Are there any habits? Try to change the habits and set some realistic goals towards getting out of comfort zone. You will be more successful and get out of your nadir. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Ramesh. Ramesh, your speech reminds me of my time when I was living in Baltimore. I was living in Inner Harbor on the 14th floor overlooking the water. I thought that was the life, but I said, okay, I'm going to learn something which is completely out of my comfort zone. I'm going to learn how to tango. Oh my God, it was such a hard experience, but for 1 year I just went all in. It was something it taught me. So thank you for sharing with us the message that we need to get out of our comfort zone. I totally agree. We all can be extraordinary. We just have to make that little bit of effort. Let's move on to the next section. But before we move on to the next section, I want to continue the story of that March 6th Ironman. That day, after staying there for 1 hour, I realized the first thing is we don't need to react to the situations. As soon as we react, we lose the control of our center. So that was the first thing. And second thing I learned is universe has our back. After 1 hour, the race people came, they changed my tire. I didn't know that I was going to make the cutoff time for the biking. I said, let's go for it. So universe always has your back. Now we'll move on to our next section, which is table topics. That March 6th incident was my defining moment in my life. Namita, what is your defining moment in your life?
For Toastmasters and dear guests, I feel like I haven't put in a spot. I was not ready for this question. About my defining moment, I would say most recently it would be I went to a trip to Meghalaya, and for some reason I knew about the temperature in Kerala. It was extremely hot because summer starts in Kerala in December. I went to Bangalore, and there it was a bit cooler. I had some warm clothes. Then I reached Meghalaya, where at night the temperature was 15 degrees centigrade. And I was not prepared for that kind of a cold. After 2 days of traveling, I fell sick. On the third day, we were supposed to travel down to the route bridges. One way, we have to hike down 3,000 steps. Just a day before that trek, I got wheezing. I couldn't breathe properly. Somehow, the hotel where we were staying, they managed to bring hot soup, bring more warm blankets. I had a huge jacket, but I was not aware that I should be using it while traveling also. Anyway, next day I woke up, everybody was surprised because all the people in the tour got scared. My God, she can't breathe, she can't even climb up the steps. How is she going to trek down? Because I was all pumped up. Oh my God, we're going to the route, which is we're going to climb down. And root bridge is something kind of a magic for me. A bridge made of only roots, living roots. I wanted to do that hike. Only 5 people volunteered because everybody got scared that you have to go down 3,000 steps and come back on the same day, because usually people go down and stay there. Our plan was not that. We had 4 people. I mean, I had 4 people with me. One of them was an athletic guy. I would say he's a Tarzan because he actually is like a Tarzan. He's Nigel. His wife Samara, a very sweet person. Both of them are very fit. Then there is Faraz and our 2 coordinator Ruchi. She is from mountain area. She is used to climbing, hiking and all. I was left. I went down. I got lost. I didn't get lost, but they thought I got lost. They were so scared. They were calling my name, Namita, where are you? Where are you? I had my headphones. I was listening to all kinds of loud songs. And I climbed back up also. In 8 hours, I completed that whole trek, hike. And I would say that is my defining moment. I never thought I could do that right after a huge, I mean, day when I was so sick with fever and chest condition. Yeah. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Namita. Thank you for sharing that story. And thank you for reminding us, like when you are listening to music, you are totally deaf. So thank you for sharing that with us. My next question is for you, Frederica. Frederica, what was your defining moment?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. My defining moment was August 8th, 2013. A day when I woke up feeling on cloud 9, went to work very excited, climbing up the stairs with much enthusiasm, looking forward to a good day. And suddenly, I looked to my right in that conference room and I saw someone on the call. That looked fishy. I went to my desk, I put down my briefcase, and in a few minutes, they said, your boss needs to speak to you, because my boss was in St. Lucia. And I went over. She said, Frederica, how are you? You sound in high spirits, because I was just coming from sick leave a week ago. And I said to her, I'm fine. She said, but since you're fine, that's the best time to talk. And she said, you're no longer needed upstairs. We'll be shifting you to downstairs. That was a very hard worker. And I was shifted to downstairs as a project officer. That was my nadir. But out of this, like the phoenix, I rose. I decided to start off my master's degree. From there, I was sent to the president's office to be stationed at the president's office in Barbados, and I found out who was Frederica. My defining moment makes me or made me who I am today. So we all have our defining moments, but how do we bounce back? And that is what the lesson I had to take from this defining moment. I bounced back and better than what I ever was. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, Frederica. Reminded me of my second incident, which I was talking about, the time when I was let go. And that was the changing point for me because it changed my career. Initially, I was in materials engineering. It helped me to look for another career. And that started my career in lithium ion batteries. So thank you, Frederica, for sharing your bouncing back incident. My next question is for you, Stephen. Stephen, can you share the incident where you bounced back from your nadir? Stephen.
Thank you, Table Topic Master Abhijit. My moment of bouncing back is really, for me, it was more like a spring. And as we had talked about the bounce, you will not have a bounce if you don't have the drop. So I'll give you the drop first. 14 years ago, I would not forget this moment. I moved to a new place where I'm staying at now, and I want to go out and do something athletic because I enjoy playing volleyball, tennis, and all the sport involve another person. But because the place is new, I'm by myself, I decided to go running. And because I'm feel that I'm pretty athletic, I feel that I can run a mile. So I said, oh, I'm going to go out and try running 1 mile. And when I start running to the end of my street, it's half a mile. I was already out of breath and I could not breathe. I had to stop. And to me, that was the lowest point in my health because I was not able to run a mile. I had to walk back in shame that last half mile because I couldn't run. But the bounce is when I decided that I'm going to try something new that can define me. And I signed up for a half marathon without knowing if I ever could do it or not. I never did a 5K, I never did 10K. But it took me 4 months and hard work, but hard work paid off. The bounce is like a spring. And I was able to finish that. And I was so happy. But it actually, what it helped me is it defined me or redefined me that I can do anything that I put my mind to it. Back to you, Tabletop Master Abhijit.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for sharing that. It reminds me of my swimming. When I did my first lap, I was huffing and puffing and holding to the wall for my dear life. But in 3 years, I had my eyes set on swimming the Bay Bridge, the Chesapeake Bay Bridge from one end to the other against the tide. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for reminding me. So, Ramesh, what was your drop? What was your drop and the bounce back? Ramesh.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster. My bounce back. Let me share the screen if I can, and that will explain all. This picture means a lot to me. My daughter, who is right there, she was my firstborn child, Purva. She was 11-day old. For this picture, I'm smiling. But really speaking, I was crying loudly inside. I had to leave. I was in Bangalore at that time. I had to leave for a work assignment next day after this picture was taken. My daughter was 11-day old and I was leaving on 12th day of her arrival for a work assignment, which I couldn't refuse. I really felt the worst parent in life. I felt like very vulnerable, a loser who couldn't really take care of my wife at that such a crucial time or my daughter. I really looked for days when I would be really able to play with my daughter after I come back from work. So I really started doing a lot of things to change my life. I said, this life cannot continue, that I work in Bangalore and I keep having so many work assignments abroad. I started preparing myself for a job change that will bring me to US, because that is where jobs were for the domain that I was working in. It was semiconductor design related work. And I trained myself, I took some high visibility projects, I hired a career coach, I did some university courses, and ultimately I got a great job offer from a Silicon Valley company. And I landed with my wife, 2 kids, and 2 suitcases in hand back in July 1996. This was a great defining moment for me, but really helped me think, reflect about my life and make some drastic changes. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. Ramesh, your love for your family was your passion which motivated you to bounce back. Thank you for sharing that with us. So, Jamal, what is your defining moment? What is your defining moment, Jamal?
Thank you for this question. My defining moment is when I stretch myself. Today, right now, I'm standing at Mission Peak in Fremont. It's a challenging hike. I never thought I'm going to do it, but there was this inner courage. You know what? I don't care if I'm out of shape. I am just going to do it because I got so inspired by people touching the pole out there. And I was like, why can't I also do it? And when I sweat and when I stretch myself, I see that I'm becoming larger than life. And that is my defining moment. I've had many, the courage to go up and do something different. Sometimes I need my close friend to give me the courage. But once I have that, I will take the risk and do it because there is this feeling that you get after you complete something that you've never done before. And you kind of feel like, wow, I just did something that I never thought I could do. So I love creating my defining moments and I am enjoying my hike today. Thank you. Back to you, Abhijit.
Thank you, Jamal. Thank you for doing the Mission Peak hike. It's indeed a challenge. It's like nearly 2,300 feet, and it's very steep. It's only 3 miles, but it's steep. So it's going to be a fun ride. Make sure you drink lots of water after you come home. My next question is for you, Shardul. Shardul, what was your Nader?
I have spoken about it in quite some detail at least in many of my friend circles, and probably also over here. But the lowest point in my life was when I came to the Netherlands and I was doing my thesis for my master's. The topic was same as Ramesh. I work in a field of semiconductor, and I design the circuits that are inside those tiny black boxes that you see inside your computer, mobile, whatnot. I was doing a sensor for my thesis, and that was for a company. There were some specifications that were not clear, and we started the design. So when you don't have a clear picture, you sort of wander about reaching there. First mistake. Second mistake, my supervisor is a super detail-oriented guy. So any wandering, sloppy work or unclear design specs are just intolerable. 6 months into the project, I'm doing my thesis, so it's a 1-year project fix. 6 or 7 months into the project, I present my work for the committee to judge. This committee I'm talking of is comprised of my supervisor, PhDs, postdocs, other master students. So it's an internal committee, not my final defense. This committee, headed by my professor, decides my fate for the 7 months of research I have been doing. And there they tell me that we don't like it. I have been presenting after every alternate week. So my progress was already known. But 7 months down the line, they say, yeah, you are looking at all the specifications, but it's not simple enough. I want you to give a simpler circuit. Problem A. At that point, that was the only day I think I finished half a crate of beer in one go, which is like 13 or 14 bottles. Well, that I eventually came up with another design. I did that design, and now we approved by my professor and that committee. So now we go on to the thesis writing part. And in the thesis writing, it took me a month or so to get my thesis done. And 2 days prior to my defense, my supervisor tells me, Shardul, I don't like your thesis anymore. It's not rightly worded. So 2 days prior to my defense, he tells me to cancel my defense. My thesis isn't best, so I should have more review. That situation, having to spend having to do my thesis project itself twice, having to write my thesis twice, graduating just prior to COVID, so getting a job is also not the best time ever. So that was the worst point of my life. But thankfully, after that, I did get a job in the same university, and now we are in a good safe spot. So, all in all, okay, it was an experience that toughened me up for all the days to come. If ever I'm at a worse position, I always compare. It's not my master thesis. I can handle it.
That's very, very true, Shardul. Once we have done something, it's like, oh, we have seen the worst days. Now anything is a cakewalk. So thank you for sharing that. And I definitely think those 13 bottles of beer help you to come up with a new project. Now let's go back to the third incident when I was talking about. It was July of 2016, and my 7-year relationship ended. That time, everything fell apart. I didn't know what to do. But there was one big thing which changed. There were so many books around me. I read. I might have read over 30 books on relationships. And that time I realized the value from books. We can learn so much from other people's experiences. So I encourage you to read, because great leaders are also great readers. Let's move on to our evaluation. Our first evaluator is going to be Frederica. She is going to evaluate Stephen's speech. Frederica.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster of the evening. Stephen, when I heard that topic, doctors make the worst patients, I was wondering what he's coming up with. I thought it was an icebreaker, but then found out it was connected storytelling, and that was good. So from this story, which was well-paced, clear, and left a great impact on me, and I'm sure it did on everybody, you told us who Stephen was as a doctor, who Stephen is as a doctor, was as a doctor, and what it did for you. So I like that you went through your injury, you learned from your mistakes, because you said the patient always think they know best. The patient want to treat themselves, they do not want to go to the doctor. But however, when you decided to go to the doctor, you decided to listen and follow the instructions, and that was better. And out of that, you became an entrepreneur, and that was good, Stephen. You found your passion, and that was to help people like me, maybe sometime, that has problems with their feet. What I liked, 3 things I liked: your eye contact, your comfort in delivering that speech. It came straight from the heart. That story was a true story, and therefore you went ahead and delivered it as it should. You met your objectives at that point. In terms of your gestures, they were very appropriate. And I like you said, the further you spring forward, the greater the stretch. And that was good. What you may want to work on is that vocal variety, because you gave us a lot of takeaways in there. You engaged us from the beginning, telling us about what is common, Bangkok, Dubai. Then you went ahead and you gave us more tips as to what the doctor did not do, or the patient will not do, and then what the doctor should do. And then you left us with some great tips. And that is for all of us that was listening, and that was for me. Be open to learn. You're not going, go to the doctor, you're not going to get better. At that point, Stephen, I expected you to be serious because these were great tips. So next time, move from that monotone and give us that seriousness because you need me. I am a stubborn one too. So you need to give me that learning. To challenge yourself, always pin your timer, Stephen, so you'll know exactly where you are. You don't have to interrupt your speech. And I will say again, what I like most about your speech was that call to action. Great speech. You met your objectives. Eye contact was good. Your comfort, the engaging of your audience, your gestures. Work on your vocal variety, and you will deliver. Look out for your timer. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Frederica. Thank you for that motivational evaluation. Let me call upon our next evaluator, Shardul, to evaluate Ramesh's speech. Shardul.
A day at the camping site of YMCA. An interesting story that highlights how change is necessary and how you deal with it, and what are the learnings you gather from it. Well, of the points that you made, Ramesh, I am dismayed about just one aspect. You did not, in your conclusion, mention being better prepared for camping as one of your conclusions. You know, that could definitely be one of them. But apart from the conclusion, the fact that you shared this personal story help, which is very apt for the situation, introducing the discomfort, how you deal with that discomfort, how people actually help you to deal with it, and the learnings that you received out of it. A very nice communication and a pictorial description of the story. The fact that your transitions from your personal story to your learnings, when you say about mindset, mindset, and how you have to stretching makes you comfortable with the uncomfortable, and then transition to Steve Harvey's video was actually also spot on. It melded seamlessly into it. And the last point was the video itself, because the video was truly phenomenal and very, very apt. Because indeed, you can share a lot of things, but the seamless melding of the content, the story, and the final message is very important. And also the simplicity of it, because the way he showed it, if you are lazy, then I'm pretty sure they are poor. Or if they love to sleep, I'm sure they are poor. Something like that, to that effect. That has an impact, and that simplifies the message and gets it across. Now, one more point that actually, apart from your better camping preparation that you could work on or introduce, since you mentioned YMCA a couple of times, I would really like to know what it stands for. The Youth Mission Christian Association. Since you mentioned that it is a Christian organization, yeah, you could definitely introduce it. Makes, at least gives us a semblance, okay, what you're talking about. And also, it was about, it's a minor nitpick again, but prior testing. During your speech, you had to check whether the video quality was good or not. You could have tested it earlier. For a professional speaker like you and for the platform, you are well versed with it, so it's not really a major concern, but yeah. The important part that I think you should consider, because I'm really nitpicking on the minor aspects to the bare minimum, to the bare detail, I would say, was the integration of your conclusion. Because while the conclusion was nice, it sorts of felt disconnected from your initial story. The conclusion definitely had, you built up on what Steve Harvey said in his video, so there was that. But the conclusion could also incorporate the aspects of your story, the way in which you mentioned about preparation, about in which your mindset changed, about your stretching part, that could have added in more oomph to your conclusion and tied the whole thing together. So while the story itself was really fantastic, a nicely laid out structure which helped with the transition and the video, a minor incorporation of the same story to finish off the loop will make it a resounding speech. Thank you very much for your speech today, Ramesh.
Thank you so much. Shardul, that technique is called as book ending, connecting your first line of the speech to the last line. So thank you for sharing that with us. Another thing actually I forgot to add is when Ramesh was talking about YMCA, I wanted to say that Toastmasters also got started in YMCA. Yeah.
I
Did
didn't
not
know
know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
that. That's good to know.
Yes. Yes. And yeah. Thank you so much. Before we end, I'm going to ask Shardul to give the timers report. Shardul?
Yes, thank you, Abhi. Well, apart from my table topic, which definitely went overboard, let
We
me.
need a timer for the timer.
No, I was there. My timer was there. I knew it was going offhand. So because my time eventually went to 4 minutes. But let's come back to the speeches. We start off with Stephen. It was 9 minutes 23 seconds. So also overtime. So I'm not the only one.
Yes.
Ramesh was 10 minutes 52. Slightly. From 8 to 10, 1 minute. Okay, works. Namitha for 2 minutes 40 seconds. Frederica 2 minutes 6 seconds. Stephen 2 minutes 8 seconds. Ramesh table topics was 1 minute 50. Jaimol 1 minute 18. Well, I 4 minutes. And Frederica's evaluation 3 minutes 15 seconds. My evaluation sharp 3 minutes. So I will say that apart the speeches, the table topics went really well. The evaluation spot on because yeah, we were all within grace period. That's a really nice thing. And the fact was everyone spoke for more than 1 minute 30 seconds, which is even better. So that's the timer's report from me.
Thank you, Shardul. Thank you for sharing that detailed report and thank you for double down on the roles. Before we end, I want to share those three things I want to conclude. When we are at our nadir, the first thing I learned is not to react. The second thing, universe always has our back. And the third thing, we can rely on the wisdom of people to come out of that. And books is one thing. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed being the Toastmaster. Let me return the control to our Madam President. Frederica, it's all you.
Thank you, our Toastmaster of the evening. The TMRB, great job. To all the functionaries, speakers, it was a very great meeting. I always enjoy myself, and I sure you did. Today we have no guest in the house, and we are missing a few of our members, but we had a good meeting. I need Shadow to speak at this time. Before we end, let's see where we are for the next meeting, Shadow.
Indeed.
Again, Abby, you can cut off now for recording.